home of the stars, through the airwaves and on the big screen. Coming to you live from Hollywood, it's Rated G Radio with your host, Garrett Miller. Hey everybody, welcome back to Rated G Radio. I am your host, Garrett Miller, and tonight we have Carol Ramsey. She's going to be returning to the show. She is a psychic. She'll be taking your calls for the next hour. We're live in the 60-minute broadcast. If you'd like to get your call answered, call our hotline at 323-657-1493. You got to press 1 on the keyboard, though. Otherwise, we just think that you want to listen to the show because that's what, a lot of folks do. And when you call by the phone. And that's really totally cool. And if you'd like to ask a question in the chat room, you're welcome to do that on Blog Talk Radio, or you can also ask a question on Facebook. I'm live there, and if you're friends with me, you can send me a little instant message, and that would be really, really cool. Now, before we get started, I'm going to do our commercial break a little early today. Now, it sounds silly because we just started the show, but I'm really excited to tell you that I was just on the It Matters radio program, and they do everything on video chat. So I had to, comb my hair and everything, except for this Halloween episode that they were doing tonight. I put on my wrestling mask and wore my wrestling belt, and well, that was it. Otherwise, it was just going to look like me sitting in front of a camera. So I was trying to play along with them, and it was so much fun. They played the music video for my song, Witch Sisters Halloween, which is super, super fun. And we're going to have Monica and Ken on the show on Tuesday, November 17th for a review of their books, independent of each other. So I've got two authors I've got to read for the same night, and that should be fun. But just as we get started, I'm going to play we call it a little brand swapping. I'm going to play their commercial for their show right now, and we'll be back in just a couple of moments.
Welcome to our discussion of It Matters Radio. Our guest today is Angus McWilliams.
Aye, laddie, let's get on with this thing. I'm on my way to a birthday party for Nessie.
You're throwing a birthday party for the Loch Ness Monster?
Well, first of all, it's not a monster. And second of all, I'm talking about niece Nessie. She's a wee bit of a lovely lass.
I see. Well, okay. Angus, can you give us your thoughts on It Matters Radio?
Aye, wonderful people. They had me on a while back to talk about my book.
Your what?
My book. I wrote a book about the adventures in Scotland.
Oh, I see. A book.
That's what I just said. What are you, deaf, man?
It Matters Radio focuses on discovering new talent and bringing important indie artists on the air. Monica, Kenneth, and Carrie offer up meaningful conversation on new music, books, and fun topics. It's unlike any other radio program known to man and woman alike.
You can say that again.
Known to man and woman alike.
Just because I said you can say it again doesn't mean you have to say it again.
I'm just doing my best to show everyone that It Matters Radio basically brings variety, fun, and entertainment with a sincere desire to discover new topics and talent.
Oh, why didn't you just say that?
I just did.
Hey, laddie, remind me when I can listen.
It Matters Radio is on every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
You Americans with your different time zones. We only have one time zone in Scotland.
And that would be?
That would be the time to down a pint or two of ale.
It Matters Radio for the best in conversation, music, books, and entertainment. Join us Thursday evenings at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. Discover the depth, diversity, meaningfulness, caring, guest-focused, friendly, enjoyable atmosphere of It Matters Radio with Ken, Monica, and Carrie.
Oh, that's a mouthful if I ever heard one.
Yes, and I'm going to go brush my teeth now. It Matters Radio.
When it comes to coffee, freshness is queen. That's why Rainbow Brew believes you should have the freshest coffee, roasted to order in small batches and delivered to your door within a couple days. Whether you're purchasing for a coffee shop, restaurant, or home, Rainbow Brew is your one-stop shop for fair trade and organic coffee. Offering many unique blends, including AM 950's own Blue State blend. That's Rainbow Brew, the Queen Bean, a proud sponsor of the Morning Grind. Online at rainbowbrew.com. Brew something good today.
Ooh, what do we have here?
Met three sisters on the beach, alone that Friday night. Gathered near a campfire kiln, their fire burned so bright. They each got up and took their turn, looking me up and down. Can we trust him? Can we tell him? They would circle round. The harvest moon above was full, but showed their scary smiles. Come sit with us, the three agreed. You'll want to stay a while.
We're the Wish Sisters, the Kick Sisters, Glamour and Jinx. This Halloween is full of tricks. Tonight we'll share our treats.
From the kiln they poured a drink and handed it to me. Bubbled, steamed, and smelled real bad. Drink fast, that is the key. Glamour told of fading stars whose looks laid claim to fame. Under knives now mummified, that plastic surgeons blame. Hag laughed out and spit a tooth when names began to drop. Like zombies of apocalypse in Hollywood, that's hot. Jinx went next and shed her hex upon some movies made. You can't cast witch without the kitsch. Their empire soon would fade.
We're the Wish Sisters, the Kick Sisters, Glamour and Jinx. This Halloween is full of tricks. Tonight we'll share our treats. We're the Wish Sisters, the Kick Sisters. The stories we will tell. In Hollywood, vampires drink blood, and zombies sure do smell.
Each had charms they liked to cast, and some may find enchanting. Glamour, beauty, hags, old tricks, and Jinx's mad incanting. Their cackles high into the night, they swept into the sky. They said return next Halloween, the kitsch will reignite.
We're the Wish Sisters, the Kick Sisters, Glamour and Jinx. This Halloween is full of tricks. Tonight we'll share our treats. We're the Wish Sisters, the Kick Sisters. The stories we will tell. In Hollywood, vampires drink blood, and zombies sure do smell. Oh gosh, I got too many miles on my broom. I gotta turn it in. Your broom? Have you seen my broom? It's a terrible condition.
All right, you two. Enough of that already. It's time to go. I need to go get my hair done.
Nothing you can do with that hair. You need to go get some Botox.
That's the little Witch Sisters Halloween by yours truly. We're having some technical difficulties with Carol's phone line right now, so I thought I've got a bunch of you already pre-screened, so thank you for that. And I wanted to bring on Tony. Tony's calling from New Jersey. And Tony, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Garrett. How are you?
I'm doing good. Now, one of the things, now, Tony, you're a longtime listener, and so number one, thank you for listening all 5 nights a week. I appreciate that very much. But one of the things I find really fascinating about you is that you're involved in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. How long have you been involved in making the parade happen?
Well, this is actually my 9th year. I started in 2007. The way I got into it, because a lot of people believe you have to work for Macy's to participate in the parade. I was working with somebody at the time who was in the parade, and he just said to me one year, "Do you want to do it?" And my friend Gail and I, who we watch it religiously every year, said, "Yeah, let's do it." So he sponsored us in, and ever since 2007, we were what was called balloon handlers. You know, we're the ones, those big, large balloons that you see in the sky. Well, there are people who are carrying them. So for the first 4 years, we were balloon handlers, and then on our 5th year, Macy's came and said, "Do you guys want to become balloon captains?" And that was in 2011, and this will be my 5th year now. We're actually balloon captains, so instead of handling the balloons, we're now in charge of the balloons. And
so what's involved in handling a balloon, and what kind of training do you go through, Tony, to be able to be part of this? Because, you know, I think, you know, as a parade observer, you know, I've watched the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade for, you know, years and years and years. You know, the expectation is from my end, I just turn the TV on, and when I finally get comfortable, you know, flip to the parade, and then it magically just takes place. But is it really that easy?
Pretty much. I mean, once you sign up, everyone's required to go to one training session. They usually have about 4, sometimes 5 throughout the year. We have what they call practice balloons. Those are the large balloons that have been retired, like Clifford, the big red dog. He's generally one of the ones we have that we practice on. Those balloons are very large, and they fly them up about 40 to 50 feet in the air. And each of those large balloons will have up to about 90 handlers. And They set up a path. Yeah, these are really large balloons. And here's a little secret that not many people will see is because they generally don't show the handlers. Underneath the balloons are 2 vehicles. Not regular-sized cars, but they have 2 vehicles underneath as well that help support and hold the balloon in size. Because it is so large, it helps. Because you do sometimes have problem with wind. So to help keep them steady, we have 2 vehicles underneath the balloon. If they ever show the handlers, you don't really see them because the handlers sort of hide the vehicles. And it's just a walk down 6th Avenue. They'll create a path on our tests. Generally the tests have been, I'm saying tests, but really the practices are at Giant Stadium parking lot. Giant Stadium has a humongous parking lot.
Okay. I love this little secret that nobody knows about, that all of this goes on before the big parade. So you said your 9th year of doing this?
Yes. My 9th year.
Goodness gracious. So were you freaked out when you first did it? And is there anything that, you know, that happens that's new year over year, or is it pretty much the same old hat?
Oh, let me tell you. The first year, everyone gets nervous right away, especially with the practice. And then when the event comes, you're always nervous. You're always afraid. What happens if we get a good big gush of wind? What happens, you know, if we do lose the balloon? That all runs through your head. Macy's has been doing this. This will be the 89th parade, and they have been doing this for so long. It is such a well-oiled machine. They know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly. They have everything timed out right to where they know what balloons will pass by before NBC goes to a commercial break. And then when they come back, they have it all so well processed. They know when the band, because, you know, there'll be some high school bands who are fortunate enough to be chosen. They know when they're coming. It's such a well-oiled machine. It's incredible.
Again, things that you never think about, because, you know, you just take it for granted that you're watching this on the television and it magically is going to work, and of course, you know, nothing ever happens, you know, or you think that, Mighty Dog is going to, you know, float away or something, you know, crazy like that's going to happen. Has there been any kind of like weird thing that's happened while you've been on the parade route?
Not well. I will say in 2013 we had a new balloon, The Adventures of Finn and Jake, and what happened was that during the parade, the second vehicle, which was in behind the balloon, conked out. But fortunately, all we had to do, because now as a balloon captain, we carry radios, all we had to do is radio and say our back vehicle isn't working, and within minutes, and I mean 2 minutes, here they come with a new car. They pull that one out, they reattach this one, and we're back on the parade.
So, okay, logistically, how do you have spare vehicles just like, you know, hanging around until you get ready?
It's the magic of Macy's. What they have, we're going down 6th Avenue, and there are crowds and crowds of people. But on the streets, you know, we go past maybe, well, no one would be on 42nd Street, but say 41st Street or 40th Street or 39th Street, we have these vehicles waiting. So anytime somebody calls, they say they radio over to the car, and they say, Adventure Time with Finn and Jake, it's on 38th Street. They need a new back vehicle. They'll push, you know, the cops will find out because there's many cops around here. They'll push the crowd aside. They'll say, we got to get the vehicle out. The vehicle comes in. They take the place. They wheel the other vehicle out. There you go. Kind of like, if you remember, I'm going to go a little bit here. If you remember in How the Grinch Stole Christmas, when the Grinch came back and brought all the gifts into the circle of the Whoville, they just all moved and then moved back in. It's just like that.
Goodness
If you don't
gracious.
know what I'm talking about, make sure you watch it this year, you'll say.
Well, you know, and in fact, I think tonight, I think it's probably past your time in New Jersey, Tony, but they're playing the Charlie Brown Great Pumpkin thing, you know, for a full hour tonight. So, you know, that's, you know, everybody here is very excited about that.
I think it's the 49th anniversary of this special, too.
Yeah, something. So, with Halloween coming up, Tony, have you figured out what you're going to dress up as?
Well, I was thinking about doing one of the Witch Sisters, but I think that I would leave that to somebody else.
Okay, well, it's not going to be me, that's for sure.
I am thinking of actually being one of the, like a Dracula or Frankenstein, hitting because New York City has their annual holiday Halloween parade down in the Village. So I'm thinking this year, I haven't done a monster character in several years. So it might be time to take out the Dracula costume.
Hey, that's not a bad idea at all. I think that's a great way to spend the Halloween. Well, Tony, I'm going to say thank you very much for calling in. I mean, well, let me ask you this before I let you go. Do you have any favorite Halloween memory of years gone by, either as a kid or as an adult? Yeah, I think both would be fun.
Oh, boy. I think probably the one year I just remember, you know, it was Halloween was a Saturday, and actually, believe it or not, I was a Dracula that year. And a neighbor friend of mine and I went out one time. I think it was trick-or-treating could start at 10 o'clock. And we didn't bring bags. We had pillowcases, so we knew they would never break. I didn't arrive home until – we didn't come back home until close to 7.
Holy cow.
We literally covered half the town, and without even realizing it, we got home. And our parents weren't, you know, this was a different time. This was the early 80s, so our parents weren't worried or, you know, we didn't have cell phones or walkie-talkies or anything. That when we got home, they said, "Did you have a good time?" I said, "Yeah, this is here's my pillowcase full of candy," and that was it.
Do you have a favorite Halloween candy?
I love my Kit Kats. I can't get enough of Kit Kat.
Yeah. Well,
not...
there we go. Well, Tony, I want to say thanks for calling in, and we're going to see if we can get Carol on the line before we come back from our next break. I'm going to play a Halloween song or two for you. We're going to start it out with a little Monster Mash. This really is a preview to what's taking place tomorrow on the Friday Night Dance Party. We've got a special 2-hour broadcast of the Rated G Radio Top 10 Halloween songs of the year, and there are old songs and new songs and songs in between that bring back lots of spooky and scary memories. But this is a little Monster Mash by Boris Pickett. We'll be back after this.
They did the Monster Mash. The zombies were the Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. They played the Monster Mash. Out from his coffin, Drax's voice did ring. Seems he was troubled by just one thing. Opened the lid and shook his fist and said, "Whatever happened to my Transylvania twist?" It's now the Monster Mash, and it's a graveyard smash. It's caught on in a flash. It's now the Monster Mash. Now everything's cool, Drax a part of the band, and my Monster Mash is the hit of the land. For you, the living, this mash was meant to. When you get to my door, tell them Boris sent you. Then you can Monster Mash and do my graveyard smash. You'll catch on in a flash. Then you can Monster Mash.
darkness falls across the land. The midnight hour is close at hand. Creatures crawl in search of blood to terrorize your neighborhood. And whosoever shall be found without the soul for getting down must stand and face the hounds of hell and rot inside a corpse's shell. Funk of 40,000 years, and grisly ghouls from every tomb are closing in to seal your doom. And though you fight to stay alive, your body starts to shiver, for no mere mortal can resist the evil of the thriller.
I love Michael Jackson's Thriller, and we are talking to Tony G. out of Hackensack, New Jersey today. Tony's called in, and he's talking to us about his involvement with the Macy's Day Parade, as well as his Gene Simmons Kiss costume from when he was a youngster. And I'm bringing Tony back on the line because his story was just that good. We're having some technical difficulties with the telephones for Carol Ramsey tonight, so if we can get her on before the hour is up, we'll certainly bring her on. But in the meantime, Tony's called in to talk a little bit about the things that he's doing to help celebrate the Halloween season, and that includes preparing for the Macy's Day Parade. So, Tony, tell us a little bit more about when do you start preparing for the Thanksgiving Day Parade? Is it like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, so like the day before, or how soon, early in the season does everybody get together?
No. We don't. We actually start back in May. May is when Macy's. Yeah. Oh, yeah. They'll have like close to 1,000 balloon handlers, and they need to make sure they have enough people for who's returning and then who they need to replace. Back in May is when we'll start getting our applications to renew our that we're going to be returning. And then the first practice, like I said, you have to attend one. They'll have one in June, then they'll have they'll have two in September, and then one in October. So yeah, that's when they start. They start way back in May.
So what's the qualification, Tony, for somebody who wants to be part of that?
Well, first you have to be sponsored. If you don't work at Macy's, you have to be sponsored in by somebody who's with the parade. So if anyone's listening and wants to do the parade next year, reach out to me. I can sponsor you in. It's too late to do it this year because Thanksgiving is less than a month away.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You get sponsored. You have to be over 18, and you have to weigh at least 125 pounds. That's the only thing.
So
you have to be over 125 pounds. Exactly. You need someone with you need to at least weigh 125 pounds so you can help handle the balloon.
Well,
that's the only
blowing
requirement.
away with strong wind on Thanksgiving Day, that would make news and it'd be kind of a draw factor away from the parade. So that's probably good. That's probably good advice.
Yeah, because you don't want to be. You don't see it, but what they have is they're called bones. Is what the handlers hold. They don't hold strings. They have the strings on something called a bone. It's a plastic bone. It's shaped like a bone. That's why they call it a bone with the four sides. And if it's constant wind and you can't get it, you're going to keep dropping the bone to the ground over and over again, and they don't want that. So that's what. Yeah.
So, with your 9th year, what were the first 8 balloons that you were part of? Do you remember them?
Oh, like the back of my hand. The first year was just a filler balloon. It was a white Macy's star, and it's one of those. They have filler balloons that don't make television. That, in between the bands and the clowns and all that. And that's what was my first year. The second year I had, that was 2007. 2008 I had Charlie the Elf. And consistently, those who watch the Macy's parade, you have 3 elf balloons right before Santa Claus comes at the end of the parade. Charlie the elf is the blue one. They have a blue one, a red one, and a yellow one. And Charlie was the blue elf, and that was my balloon that year. Then in 2009, I got Pikachu. I was on the Pikachu balloon. And in 2010, I had Horton the Elephant from Dr. Seuss.
Okay. And finally, honestly, Tony, I'm like, I don't know what the other ones were, but I know which that one is. Okay.
Pikachu is a video game. It's one of those video game characters. And Charlie the elf, he's an elf balloon. They have 3 elves, like I said, 3 elf balloons, but literally right before Santa Claus comes. So when we were walking with Charlie, we could turn around and we could see Santa Claus.
Oh my gosh.
He was right there. And then 2011 was my first year as captain, and that year we had balloons, what was called geometrics. Kind of, once again, another filler balloon. First year as captain, they're not going to put me on Spider-Man. So we were on, I keep saying we because my friend Gail and I have been doing this together for 9 years, and she's been on my side. She and I are side by side with everything. And then 2010, they had a new balloon called Rex the Happy Dragon, and it was a dragon balloon, and they named it Rex after somebody who's affiliated with the parade, so they named him Rex the Happy Dragon. And that was it was a new balloon. And then 2012, oh my gosh, I am blanking on 2012. Give me a second. Oh, what am I saying? 2012, that was Rex the Happy Dragon. I'm mixing my dates up. 2013 was Adventure Time with Finn and Jake, which I talked about before. And then last year, I was on the brand new Paddington balloon, Paddington Bear.
So is there competition on who's going to be on which balloon, or do you campaign for, like, I want to be on the Spider-Man balloon this year, or does that kind of stuff go on?
No, because Macy's assigns it to everybody. We never know what the balloons are going to be until we as captains, they have a special dinner for us in October, which we had ours last week. And that's when we find out what the new balloons are and which ones we've been assigned to. So there's no campaigning. You can campaign all you want, but people on the inside are the ones assigning the balloons to you.
And do they know, and I'm still just playing, the devil's advocate here, but do they go, okay, well, we know Tony doesn't work for Macy's, so we're going to stick him on one of these balloons, but, we got Mary over here, and Mary works for, the store over on Fifth Avenue, and so we're going to put her on this float this year. Does that type of stuff, do you think, happen, or is it just still all like it's totally random?
No, I don't think that really happens. I think at this point, because I've got 9 years of experience doing it, they're going to want somebody with that much of experience on the better balloon. And like I said, Gail's with me, and I have another captain, John, who actually sponsored us in. So the 3 of us John's more of head captain, we're sub-captains. They pretty much have kept us together ever since.
Wow, that is so cool.
Yeah, and so my balloon this year, I can tell you, will be, if those of you who are familiar with the books or saw the movie a couple of years ago, it is Diary of a Wimpy Kid. That'll be so. If you're watching Macy's Parade and you see the Diary of a Wimpy Kid balloon come by, you look for a guy in white overalls with a red cap. That's me.
I love that. Is so fun. I'm excited that you're going to be part of a new balloon this year. Now, so for everybody that is listening, Tony is a little bit of a social media guru or expert, because you're a consultant in real life. You don't just, surprisingly, you're not just a balloon, handler one day a year on Thanksgiving. Right. There are 365, on a leap year, 364 days out of the rest of the year that you do other work. So what is it that you do during the regular portion of your day?
Well, the regular portion of my day, I am a marketing consultant. I like to use social media to help promote. I promote small businesses. I used to work with a corporation. I work with some daycares. As I'm working with an aftercare program this past week. I like to use social media to help promote the businesses. I mean, in this day and age, you can't succeed without being on social media, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, any of those.
So Tony, how how has social media changed? Because really, social media, even though we use that term so easily now, like we're all experts at it. But when the truth is, even though we think we're experts, we're really not, and that's why you're here. But Facebook's been around for 8 years now. We've had, emails, and because that's really kind of a little bit like social media, except that's kind of like the dinosaur or the old, carrier pigeon at this point. But how has social media changed how you do your work for your clients over the last 5 or 6 years?
Well, this is what you're right. A lot of people think, I'm on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, so I know how to promote everything. I could take care of the business as well. You're promoting stuff on your Facebook page that really only your friends are seeing. You want to get your business out there. You want to create what I call a professional page. You want other businesses, and you want to get other clientele. I like to use Twitter. I like to use Facebook. Like when I take on a new client, I won't start promoting their business. I take the first few weeks to find the Twitter followers, to find the Facebook followers that you want to find. That's part of, you want to – go ahead.
How do you do that? I mean, because that to me, and you don't reveal any trade secrets, of course, but I mean, how do you do that to, figure out, do you sit down with the client and say, what do you want your campaign to be? How long do you want to run it? What kind of budget do you have to do this? If I were to come to you and say, I need help. I'm a social media mess, Tony. What do I need to do? Where does that conversation even start?
Well, the first thing I would say is, who is your target audience? You have a product that you want, is a target product for teenagers to help them get through college? Is your product something to help at home? Is your product something for this? Is your product something for that? That's where the first basic questions are going to come to. I need to know who your target audience is. And then I know a lot of people, and I've discussed this before, and there's always on this Twitter, you can buy, spend $5, we'll send you 5,000 Twitter followers. Don't do that. Those things I actually know a couple of people who said, I'm going to do this instead. They would buy it. They would get, next day, I've got 5,000 more Twitter followers or 10,000 more Twitter followers. Then they go through it and they realize it's just junk. You spend $5 and they're either dead accounts or accounts in another continent, accounts that just are not what your target audience is. And maybe you spent $5, but now you got to clean all that up. And maybe it looks good. People will say, "Oh, look at me! I've got over 10,000 followers on Twitter. Everyone must like me." But it's garbage. It's not, and I don't do that. I will take the time, and I do this. I take the time and I build up. Like one of my clients, I'm not going to give, like I said, trade secrets. I started with them earlier this year, but they had like 34 Twitter followers. They didn't know what they were doing. As of today, they have close to 1,900 followers.
Wow. And the thing is, that's a 1,900 legitimate followers. I want to tell you a real quick story here. I had an event that I was doing photography at. I was shooting the event probably back in, I'm going to say, July or August. And one of the people that was there was a model who was there, modeling the different clothing and stuff like that. Took a picture of the guy, and I said, at some point, you should be on the show. Wanted to talk to him about that. And the first thing he says is, I've got 1.1 million followers on Twitter. And I went, wow, that sounds like really, you must be somebody really important if you've got 1.1 million followers on Twitter. And I came home and I happened to mention that to the head of my record label. And I said, I met this particular individual, and the first thing he did was to go and, check him out on Twitter. And he goes, well, anybody can have, 1.1 million followers on Twitter if you pay for it. And, that's what this person's done, because, and went through, all the reasons, kind of like what you're talking about. And so it's like, it's really cool that you say that, but apparently you need validation for a lot of other things in your life, because that's really what you're doing is you're buying non-existent followers. And, that does not help translate into the new sale or, new business or anything like that. So, what do you think people are really getting out of that when they are, purchasing it? Because, that just seems like it seems totally stupid.
it's just it's a publicity thing to me. It's, like he said to you, look, I got 1.1 million followers on Twitter. Oh, right, that's exciting. That's great. It's kind of like people, I guess I could put it this way, it's like people who embellish on their resume. Oh, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this, and I've got this skills. That's great. That's fabulous. We want you for the job. Then you get into the seat. You sit behind the desk. How do I do this? I thought you said you can do it. Well, yeah. I kind of can.
Yeah. When I thought, the other thing that I didn't take into consideration until after it was pointed out to me is like, when I was asking the, I was saying, I met this individual. I think he'd be a good guest for the show. I get this 1.1 million followers, and he seems to be, like a big, the next big thing. And when my label came back and says, don't think he's that big. And one of the things that they said was, I said, well, how do you, how can you say that? He's got 1.1 million. They go, he has virtually no retweets. He has virtually no favorites. Nobody else is talking about him. So he can, tell you all of that. But, when you take a look at the engagement with the tweets that, he's putting out there, there's virtually none. So, the only person he's really selling is selling himself. I just thought
exactly, and that is interesting. That's how something too is a philosophy I have, which I wasn't going to get mentioned, but I'll just mention real quick. One of the things too to help build your followers, you promote someone else, they'll promote you back.
Right.
You help somebody, they'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
And
So can you tell me?
Can
you tell me about maybe like one of the more interesting, and it can be weird interesting, especially since you were getting so close to Halloween. Can you give us maybe an example of a weird thing that happened with one of your clients from a social media standpoint? But it could be like a good outcome, but just something that really caught you off guard.
Well, this happened to me actually earlier this spring. I was on Twitter. Actually, I got a request from somebody on Twitter who I wasn't following. He's a writer. I'm not going to mention his name, but he is a writer. He had a new book coming out. He said, look, I've got a new book coming out. It comes out, it's going to come out in 3 weeks. I really want to do whatever I can. So I went into overdrive. I helped promote his book. I helped get people to come to his launch party. It was successful. It was a great experience for him. The very next day after the book came out, he said to me, I think I'm going to take it from here for now. I don't need your service anymore.
It's kind of like the artist who has that first hit album, and it's like, well, I clearly don't need help because I did it all myself, and I got to number one, and you just roll your eyes and you're like, oh, okay, go ahead, and then okay, so what happened?
Well, I guess from that on, he was going to take it on his own. Now, this was, like I said, a couple of months later, I happened to go to a book convention, and he was there. And there's some really big-time authors and some comic book authors. There's some really big names at this event, and it's a pretty crowded event. And a lot of people got selling their books. They've got posters. They've got all this stuff. I approached him at his table. He's got his black curtain that everyone gives him. He's sitting there with a couple of books. He had no one approach him. So,
there's no buzz.
There was no buzz. There was nothing. He wasn't getting anything. Meanwhile, a couple of other people I helped promote to the show were getting the hits. They were getting the people. They had seen my tweets. They had seen stuff. So they were appreciative. But he was sitting. I remember he sat at his table, and I was nice to him. I approached him. I shook his hand. I gave him a great conversation. Didn't say anything about, well, I don't see anyone around your table. Kept that quiet, but
right.
I did notice it.
Well, yeah, I think it's hard because especially, and I'll just talk from my perspective. I'm so used to doing everything myself that anytime I get help with any type of a project, I always think it's really, really cool. But the second that project is done, it's like, okay, I can handle it all myself again. But behind the scenes, you really do. Unless you're actually, sitting there with you, Tony, or social media expert like yourself, you don't see all the behind-the-scenes stuff that goes on to make the event or the whatever a success. And I think that's really hard for people when they don't have a good understanding of the time and effort it takes to make something like that come off without a hitch. And that's what you do so expertly.
And it's hard too because I spent years in publishing, and I was involved in, getting subscriptions, getting new subscriptions, and getting people to renew their subscriptions. And back in the day, you would mail out promotions or you would fax out promotions. And in the last 10 years, you would actually do email blasts out to promotions. And you would always have a special promo key on there so you knew if people responded, oh, they responded from the email blast, or, oh, this came in through the direct mail package I received. Oh, this came in from the insert card that comes out of the magazine that everybody hates, but everyone uses because it's the easiest way to subscribe to a magazine. With social media, it's hard to do that. It's hard because you're promoting unless you do something special like, let everybody know that you saw this on Twitter or something, we'll give you $10 off, or it's really hard for people to see the results. So it's always, well, I don't see anything coming. I just know I'm saying this, I thought about this. I worked with another daycare center. I'd worked with this daycare center, and I was telling them how you're not using social media, so they said, okay, give it a try. 2 weeks later, he calls me up and says, where are the people? They're not coming. And I said, well, it's only been 2 weeks. You have to give it time. He was expecting after a week that there were going to be 50 people lined up with kids ready to sign up. It takes time. Not a lot of time, but it takes time.
You raise a great question. So is there a different amount of time that it takes for different types of strategies, whether it's a book or an album or a music video or a fundraising campaign or childcare? Is there anything that's typical that's the same, but what would be different?
It really comes to the timing, and it really does come it's really just the timing. It really depends. You want to promote the business, like the daycare. You need to promote the business. People maybe who are having a new child about to put in daycare is one thing, but you want to convince other people who live in your town to say, take your child out of this daycare and bring him to ours instead. That will take a little more convincing to do. Why? Because you got to promote why our daycare is better than your daycare. So you're trying to convert that versus somebody new coming in.
So from your experience, what have you found has been successful in doing a conversion like that? Is it just the repetitive message that people are getting, or is there a spin on the message that you can share with folks? Because we're not telling people how to do this. We're just saying this is what you do. But are there different ways that you attack that? So you say in week 1 we're going to talk about this, week 2 we're going to talk about that. Or is it like the same consistent message over and over and over?
No, the same consistent message gets repetitious, and then at the same time, when you keep seeing the ad over and over again on the computer, you just ignore it. That would happen the same thing. You need to change it up. You need to promote it like this. Like if I were working for that daycare center right now, I've just been spending the last couple of weeks, maybe the last 2 weeks, this is what we're doing for Halloween. These are the specials that we have. This is what we can, this is what we're going to give to the kids. This is what we're going to show to the kids. This is, always mention, there are some certain points, always mention the curriculum so they know what the curriculum is. Always mention, some people are, unfortunately, are by price, so always mention what the price is. Some people, it depends on the area. I don't want to break down too much about that. I was thinking about the different areas of the country, or say even in different areas of the state versus, inner city versus country.
There's a great thing to bring up here, Tony, because, you help people in different industries with different products and different services all around the country. And how do you factor in regionally how you're going to interact with folks who, because I'm in California, and if I was going to do something locally out here, it'd probably be, maybe a little bit different than what you do for somebody back in Hackensack.
Well, that involves the research. That's where it goes back to the main question. What is your target? Are you looking, if someone's doing a fundraising campaign and they're located in Los Angeles, California, they don't want to just get people in L.A. They want people all 50 states versus a daycare center, which they only want people, not even in their county. They would want, like, the 5 cities around it. It really comes just to doing the research on that and then finding those people. Like when I worked for the daycare, what I was doing was just researching who's in the area, who are these people, who is in the area, who are these people, what can we offer them to bring them to the center. a fundraising campaign would say, okay, this is going to go to all 50 states. Even not even 50 states. It can even go to England. It can go, across the land. What do they have to offer? What are the incentives? And you go from there.
Right.
You start from there.
Tony, we're gonna, I would say, running out of time, but I want to play a couple more Halloween songs off of our top 10 list that we're going to hear tomorrow on the official Top 10 Halloween Songs of 2015 on Rated G Radio. It's a 2-hour broadcast. You can hear it all day long, well, really all weekend long. But the show is going to air early tomorrow morning, so check your local listings, and you'll be able to click and play 2 hours. And I'm putting the show on early simply because if you're having maybe an office party or you got something going on at school or you're doing something in the afternoon or early evening and you want to have a great block of Halloween music, I've got it all set up for you. And it's just, again, click and play. You can also download the show on Apple iTunes as a podcast for Rated G Radio, and that is always fun to do. So make sure to do that. So, Tony, before I let you go, we've talked about all this stuff, but the one thing that I've totally missed, and this is completely my fault, how do people connect with you, and what's a great way to find you on social media and talk to you more about services that they can work with you on?
Well, you can reach me in one of three ways. You can reach me on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Kira's Dad, KIRASDAD, Kira's Dad. You can reach me on Twitter at Tony Guad, TonyGuad. And I'm going to give my email because currently my website is under construction. I'm revamping the website from what I used to have, so my website is down at the moment. But you can email me, TonyGuad71@gmail.com. That's TonyGuad71@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, I think if you are in the market for some social media help, if you've got a new project coming up, you're looking to do maybe a social media global funding type of an event, or maybe you're an author who just needs to, to get the good word out about your upcoming book tour or things that you're going to be doing, Tony is a great person to contact. So we'll have all this information on the replay. It'll be on the Rated G Radio show page here for the show tonight. We'll get that updated. And Tony, I'm going to say I wish you a very, very happy Halloween. We're going to play this one certainly doesn't go out to you, but I'm going to say, because it's actually one of my favorite songs, I'm going to play this for you. It's called Season of the Witch by Donovan. I'm going to have one other sneaker we're going to put on to wrap up the show as well, time permitting, and I wish you all a very happy Halloween, but stay tuned tomorrow. It's the 2-hour broadcast of the Halloween show right here on Rated G Radio. Thank you.
When I look out my window, many sights to see. And when I look in my window, so many different people to be, that it's strange, so strange. You got to pick up every stitch. You got to pick up every stitch. You got to pick up every stitch. Must be the season of the witch. Must be the season of the witch, yeah. Must be the season of the witch. When I look over my shoulder, what do you think I see? Summer cat looking over his shoulder at me, and he's strange, sure is strange. You got to pick up every stitch. You got to pick up every my window. What do you think I see? And when I look in my window, so many different people to be. It's strange. Sure is strange. You got to pick up every stitch. You got to pick up every stitch. The rabbit's running in the ditch. Oh no, must be the season of the witch. Must be the season of the witch, yeah. Must be the season of the witch. Where'd I go?
Okay, I forgot to do this earlier in the night, and I promised several people I would bring this up, so I've gone to famousbirthdays.com, and there is somebody out there tonight who's listening, Miss Kate Jackson from Charlie's Angels fame. Kate Jackson turns 67 today. We want to say thank you, Kate, for listening to the show. Hope you are having a fantastic birthday tonight. Now go out and do something fun. Other celebrities having birthdays today include Gabrielle Union, who's turning 43. We've got Dan Castellaneta. He turns 58. You'll know him from The Simpsons. Fleur East, she's a pop singer, is 28. Jacqueline Joss is 23. She's a soap opera actress. Winona Ryder is 44. We've got Derek Thieler is 29. He's a TV actor. Espinosa Paz is 34. He's a world music singer. We've also got Eric Sade. He's 25, pop singer. I have not heard of him, though. Cleopatra Coleman is 28, actress. Richard Dreyfuss is 68. We've got Finola Hughes, 56. If you saw her face, you'd know her. And then finally, we have got the amazing Randy Jackson at 54 and Melba Moore at 70. So happy birthday to all of you fine folks. And thank you for being part of Rated G Radio. Thanks again to Tony Guad for being my VIP special guest star tonight. I appreciate him calling in. And you have a great evening. Don't drive distracted.
You've been listening to Rated G Radio.